Hi, I am Araceli, and today we are here at the Brea Tar Pits, where we will be exploring today. And I am going to be giving a brief introduction. The Brea Tar Pits was formed through multiple intervals of uplift and faulting, allowing crude petroleum to seep through the surface from underground reservoirs over the last 50,000 years, creating shallow pools that entrapped and preserved millions of fossils representing hundreds of species of plants, invertebrates, and vertebrates. And these fossils are what we will be talking about today. So the main question is, are all fossils being preserved in sedimentary rocks? And the answer to that is yes. Most fossils are mostly being preserved in sedimentary rocks because they are in location where sediment is likely to bury and shelter them from scavenger or decay. As rocks at the Earth's surface are broken down or weathered, the sediment is moved by forces such as water and wind and deposited elsewhere in layers. Over time, these layers build up and solidify, becoming sedimentary rock. Organisms can be preserved as fossils if their bodies are buried within these layers. Some examples of sedimentary rocks that are likely to contain fossils are mudstone, shell, and limestone. Occasionally, living things are preserved in lava flows or volcanic tuff deposits, aka igneous rocks, but these are relatively rare.
Bones are preserved in La Brea tar pit because sometime long ago, the area was covered with sticky tar, much like oil but stickier, that trapped the animals that used to roam around there. Tar is only found in certain rocks, like shale, sandstone, and limestone. Because tar is very thick and sticky, the bones are protected from natural climate, wind, rains, and etc. that would have eroded them otherwise. No oxygen can get through, so the bones do not rot or decompose. The key thing about preservation is the lack of oxygen. Oxygen is a very active chemical and will break down organic materials, so when the large mammals and other plastistome animals fell into the tar pits and sank, they were located in an environment that lacked oxygen, hence they were preserved. The remains of dead animals sink relatively quickly down into the asphalt, where they are completely buried. Their bones are very likely to be preserved as fossils. After the soft part of the animal, muscles, skins, etc., decay and are eaten away by bacteria that lives in the pond, the hard, porous bones become saturated with asphalt and sink into the pit, preserving them from further decay and breakdown that would occur if they were exposed to the elements of the surface. As you see here, here's La Brea's tar pit.
So now we will present the fossils in which are related to sedimentary rocks. First type of fossil is this one, mammoth fossils. As we know, limestone is a sedimentary rock made almost entirely of fossils. Fossils are made of the ancient plants and animals, like an imprint in a rock or actual bone and shell that have turned into rock. For instance, fossils of extinct animals like dinosaurs and woolly mammoths are found in sedimentary rocks. This most likely occurred when the organism first fell into a melted out ice crevice and found themselves entombed in a fatal and freezing predicament. Next we have, which is most similar to mammoth fossils, is direwolf fossils. If you want to know where most direwolf fossils are found, then look in the sedimentary rocks. Most likely the case after shell, bone, or tooth is buried in sediment. It may be exposed to mineral-rich fluids moving through the porous rock material and become filled with preserving materials such as calcium carbonate or silica. Fun fact is that the most direwolves were found in here, the Brea tar pits. Over 3,600 direwolf individuals have been discovered in the tar pit, making it the most common species than mammal there. There is a big number of carnivores that fell into the pit in order to get the rotting carcasses of the herbivores. These fossils are known as fossil fuels, organic sediment rocks. Because the tar pit is made of clay, water, and a thick molasses-like substance called bitumen, which is made of the same molecules as liquid oil and is used to produce gasoline and other petroleum products.
Saber-toothed cats, as we know, is the most remain animals just like this one, is found in places where pools and tar thick and oily liquid is. Saber-toothed cats were in this case are trapped in the tar and then later was preserved in sediments since they do form in the layers of sediments such as sand, mud, or tar like now mentioned with the dire wolf fossils. Over time, sediments buried the organisms at 300 to 1,000 meters below Earth's surface, subjecting them to high pressures. Their process turns organic metal into oil. Fun fact, the saber-tooth jaw opens to 90 degrees, as you guys can see right here. Another of the most we had bird fossils, as you guys can see. Is one of the most common type of fossils are trace fossils. An example of that is the bird fossils. They have been found several hundred bird tracks and several dozen traces of bill probes made during feeding. Bird tracks have been found in deposits believed to be laying down near lakes and rivers. Because of the thickness and the sediment rocks unit, there are many bedding planes that could contain dinosaurs or bird tracks. Another way in which a track is protected and when the animal's foot sinks deeply into the sediment, creating a footprint below the surface where it cannot be eroded. If buried tracks are later re-exposed, they will be more easily recognized if the sediment that buried or filled them differently. Characteristics that the sediment in which the tracks were originally made. One example of this is when the footprints are made in the fine-grained mud and are then covered with a bed of sand. This makes these fossils to be dentral sediment rock.
In conclusion, sedimentary rocks is the only type of rock that can preserve fossils due to the process of dead plants and animals being buried by sediment, leading to accumulation of minerals from water in bones and eventually forming fossils. The unique characteristics make sedimentary rocks the sole rock type that can contain fossils. In contrast, metamorphic and igneous rocks do not typically have fossils. Igneous rocks are formed from molten rock and rarely contain fossils, while metamorphic rocks undergo intense pressure, heat, and deformation that usually destroys any fossils present. The distinction highlights the importance of sedimentary rocks is preserving Earth's history through the remains of past lives formation. Additionally, the presence of unconformities between sedimentary rocks and underlying igneous or metamorphic rocks further emphasize the significance of sedimentary rocks in the fossil record.